editor of Blue Rose Magazine, and we have a bunch of books in the back, and we've been here all week, and tomorrow's Twin Peaks Day. What could be better? We are going to bring up George Griffith here, and then we'll have a little Q&A, and then we'll give you 15 minutes to pee because you've just listened to a lot of pee. And then we'll be back for Hotel Room, which Daniel wisely placed here because it is set in one location. And let's bring up the writer and director and actor, but it's not a vanity project, of that, Mr. George Griffith. So, before I ask George a question, I want to ask you guys a question. Who thinks Shu shows up for work on Monday?
No.
Only one? Two? Who thinks he doesn't? Oh, a lot of non-voters. Yeah, we can see what happens when a lot of people don't vote.
Yeah.
I know you're a Lynch fan. I don't know why I got political. I know you're a Lynch fan, so I'm not going to ask you if he shows up for work, but I want to ask you about work, because to me the theme of this movie is work. And I'm curious, what inspired you to write this movie? What, if you were going to put a theme to it, like what made you pick up that pen?
I was working in the bathroom. And immediately it was very apparent that it was a gold mine material. And so look, to me, there was darkness, but they were all looking for like connection, like love, but I couldn't, that's not like the most popular thing to make a movie about, so I thought I would Trojan horse that in. I couldn't believe what was going on in there, honestly, and I started to wear when Twin Peaks was out, my mom gave me like a little Asian Cooper tape recorder. I wore that for a long time in the bathroom, and I would also give it to the guy who came in after me because it was a different shift. It was like a different crew of dudes, and I only had a couple tapes, so I would be like, singing for the good guys, only good guys, and I would come home and I would sit. I had like a little Mac, and I had this terrible apartment, but I would transcribe everything as soon as I got home, and I would just be like, I'm just gonna do it for a little bit longer, and I had other jobs. I was working in theater and stuff like that, but it was like this harvest. It was unbelievable, and then I lost all those files, and I just said, oh, that's a sign, I'm not gonna do it, this is terrible, I've gotta get out of here, and I moved to California and just forgot about it. And then when I got there, I just started writing it all, but it wasn't like one thing happened, it was one thing happening every second, you know what I mean? It was like a disaster, like always pending disaster,
I mean, I would never talk to someone while I pee. But most people want to talk to an attendant, or that is what's dramatic.
This is 100% authentic. I wish I could come up with something this amazing. This is everything that happened. This is the way that they did it. This is the shit that they said. This is the way that they talked to me. This is the way they talked to each other. This is the way that they talked about the women in their private lives. I mean, this is like I remember these guys. They're combinations of people. No one has showed up and said, "That's me. You shouldn't have done that." But it was a range of things. Look, when I would get off those ships, I spent at this time of my life a lot of time in bars, and so I would be in bars after working in the bar, and and I would say, every actor I knew was a waiter. I didn't really have personality for that job, so I was like doing the bathroom thing. Everybody wanted to know who came in there, especially women, wanted to know who came in there. The answer is everybody. You know, it's like your dad and your uncle and your brother and your best friend and your ex, and so.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at a video store in the 90s, and, you know, I rented a porn to my guidance counselor. It was awkward for everyone involved. So, I mean, you're right, everyone comes in. So that was my first thought. I mean, to me, it's just about how it is to work at a job. You know, this has a little bit of Cheers or The Office or things like that, and the feeling that you could be more. None of, you know, you're saying this all happened, but I think a little bit of George Griffith is up on there because you wanted to be an actor. You wanted to be more than that, and Shoes wants to be more than squirting soap in someone's hands.
Certainly. There is absolutely a painful theme to witness, which is, you know, like a great vulgarity is wasting potential, I think, and it's sad when you see that, you know, and it's definitely like beyond melancholy when you realize you're like, you know, brewing it, you know.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Now let's move to directing. The mirrors in this movie blow my mind. I've done a little bit of filming, nothing like this, but if I would not film in a place that has a mirror here, a mirror there, I mean, please tell me, did your cinematographer hate you?
The bathroom was designed based on the bathroom that I worked most frequently. I worked a lot of different bathrooms. I was a real mercenary about it. And, This was designed based on the bathroom that I had worked in, and I had to like manage. When I was writing it, I had to manage because I wanted to write it in real time. I had to manage the traffic flow, you know, so that people could. I had an aerial schematic of it that was very clear, you know, and the mirror was where it was, and that's where I was going to stand in front of. This first production meeting, everybody said no way. They said, no way are you doing that, no way are you standing in front of the mirror the whole movie. And I said, yeah, that's the way the bathroom is, you know, and so it's on a gimbal, you know, you could tilt it a great deal, and I only shot through it, you know, you can see I only shot through it, I think, with Anna O'Reilly. That's the only time I took it out completely. But I definitely had to move it. But I also did myself a favor when I was designing because that's a set, you know. And you guys actually will, I think you will appreciate this. When I first got to Los Angeles, I trailed Leslie Linka Glatter. You guys know who she is? She's
Twin Peaks director.
She's Twin Peaks director. She was a protege of David. She was one of the first women to be nominated for an Oscar for a short that she did at AFI. And you know, I had been a massive David Lynch fan and of Twin Peaks also. So she was directing ER, and in ER, you know, I didn't watch it, but I would go and she would plan the traffic, and she would plan her shots, and she would time things out. I learned a lot. And one of the things that was amazing about the ER set that's very unusual for sets, and especially TV sets, is it has a ceiling. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do, because I knew as an actor, it was going to be a challenge to just pick up every day and make sure it was moving along like that, you know. I kind of lost my train of thought, but...
Well, the thing that I was thinking is, in your head, you probably knew all those characters, but I couldn't tell you how many men come in.
What is it? 63.
63. So what?
This also didn't go over super well when I brought that up.
But I mean, how'd you keep that straight? Does the script say 1, 2, 3, 4, or it says Bob, Sam,
Oh
Hank,
no, they
Paul?
all have names.
And you knew who all those people were. And you knew how to
I
cast.
personally think that they all speak with their own voice, so yes, yeah.
I mean, that's a
put
lot of characters.
A lot of fucking guys came in with that. You know, and a lot of them were, you know, combinations of guys, you know, and, you know, like, and a lot of them, you know, like the guy, the one who's got a lot to say about his wife and the infidelity and stuff like that. This is like a dark viewpoint that I would hear quite a bit. But when I wrote that, like I wrote that as a much older guy, that's who I would hear from. But Nathan, that actor, I don't know, it was sadder than being younger, you know? And so you know, like I didn't like try to like find the exact person. I just wanted the, you know, the essence of them, you know? And also I wanted theater actors, which is what everybody is, you know? A lot of these guys are from Steppenwolf, and women. And Circle and Square, that's where Matthew and I met. You know, we'd known each other since we were teenagers, and because we trained together.
And any connection between you and Matthew being in Twin Peaks: The Return and this? Because I know David saw this film, so is that, do you know if that's how Matthew got
I would
cast?
probably say that's 100% what happened. No, actually, really quickly, when Matt came to me this summer, that we didn't know that they were going to be casting Twin Peaks, but that summer he came to me and he wanted me to do a View play in Scotland. He had just done something with Neil, and he wanted to direct it. And so we were going to Scotland, and we were rehearsing rigorously, and I remember I got the call from Joanna Ray, and I had to like come to rehearsal late, and he was like, "That's okay, I'm gonna be late too." Like, you know, at the premiere, well, we saw the Lids, but at the premiere we were laughing because we both went like kind of the same time, you know. But he was. Yeah, sorry.
Watching this tonight, 35 millimeter print, what did you notice about your directing?
Well, I really think I really appreciate all the performances. You know, there's a lot of people. You know, the way the schedule was. You know, fortunately, I had previous relationships with a lot of the actors. You know, because it was very. You know, everybody was there for a day. You know, other than a couple people, but it did have a luxury in the scheduling. I mean, we had to do it this way, but we shot in sequence more or less, which was very helpful for me. You know, it's such a slow burn for the main character that it just was really critical for me to plot it out, but then to make sure that I was also, you know, being, you know, spontaneous and doing it for the first time. You know, it's a little tricky. Also, I know all their lines and everything because I'm going, we can't shoot this until you're ready, you know, because I did not have a surplus of film. And I was shooting on 16. I didn't shoot this on 35. This was shot anamorphic 16 millimeter. This is the negative one from 16. It looks great, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you direct yourself? Did you set your scenes? Did you do a bunch of them in a row? Did you say I'll always be at the end of the day?
No. That was impossible. No, what would happen is usually there would usually be 2 scenes a day. We shot 3 6-day weeks. Nobody liked that, but that's what I had to do. And wait, what was the question?
Well, I wondered where you scheduled yourself in. Because I was thinking,
What I did,
are you doing all those?
No, okay, so the walls all came, I could file all the walls out, and so when someone would come, if we were doing this scene and this scene, usually what we would do is I would fly that wall and I would shoot everything from this side with this scene, and I would do all of their coverage. and then they take a break, I stay. And then this other scene, same thing. And then they go to lunch, I stay. We bring the wall back, and that wall goes. Sometimes it wasn't that wall, you know. The urinal, in front of the urinals, you know, I did always put the newspapers in front of the urinals because guys called that shit. But behind every paper was a hole cut that could fit the lens. And so, you know, so that way that back to your question of the mirror, that way I could obstruct the reflection of the lens by the person's head. You know what I mean? So I could shoot through each urinal. That was a special. But that was a good special because I didn't have to move anything. You know what I mean? I didn't have to take any set pieces off to achieve those. You know what I mean?
My favorite shot, not that you asked, was when you had the guy at the third urinal, but you also split your profile there.
Yeah.
Where, like, I feel like most directors would have made the other choice of putting him over here, but I like that everything was over there. Did you storyboard that out or find that on the set?
I did. I did.
I mean, that's a nice shot.
Yeah, I did. You know, I was an editor for a long time prior to having this opportunity, you know. So I shot what I needed, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that I had worked with seemed to like overshoot and figure out how their movie was going to be when they edited. And I also had edited for people who did that, and that's not for me.
Understandable. Now let's get to David Lynch. How does David Lynch see this movie and give you this incredible quote that's on the box set and in the preview?
Well, I didn't have any control over that part, well, I interviewed David for about meditation in 2009.
And what did you interview him for? A magazine or?
No, it was for Sirius Radio.
I mean, how'd you get this job? I asked that dude to be interviewed 12 times.
No, I know, but what had happened was I had just prepared this interview. He was coming to Radio City with I think like Paul and Ringo. It was like a big thing, and David was going to be participating with all these people with Maharishi from that world, and I had created a flow chart. I really should have brought my water. I'm gonna go get it. I had created a flow chart that essentially was like how to interview David Lynch about TM. Can you grab that from me? I think it's that one by Daniel. And
I never had anyone get up and leave on me.
I
mean, this guy.
Right.
You got it. Here you go. Here's a tip. I mean, I knew that you. Now will you stay? And I said I'd catch you next time.
Yeah. No, I interviewed David, and this guy made this flow chart, and it was like, if David talks about bliss, you should talk about this in this movie and this in this movie. If David talks about this is a good thing. It was like how to interview David Lynch. It was actually very well done. And right before it happened, which was April 1st, so I'm not gonna lie, I really thought that there was a higher power playing a joke on me. But they called and they said, no one wants to learn this, so why don't you do it? I said, I would love to. So I met David that day, and I mean, to be honest with you, I just thought he liked me right away. That's true. I said I'm George Griffith from Philadelphia, and it was as if I had told him we had the same ex-wife. You know what I mean? Like, we talked about Philly, and we were like laughing. I didn't even tell him I was interviewing him. We were just sitting in the lobby at Sirius, and And then they called us in, and he laughed because we'd been talking, and then it went really well. I talked to him about meditation. Then when we left, they took everybody to lunch, and I was like, "Do you guys need me to go?" And he said, "Okay." And I sat next to David. I made sure of that. I definitely pushed the lady out of the way, but it was, I didn't think I would ever see him again. And Catching the Big Fish had just come out, and it had had a really big impact on me. And I knew I was going to be beginning to meditate when I went back to LA. And so whenever they were all talking about the event, and George Harrison, they're talking about stuff, and every time the ball starts to I'm like, "You're really never shooting on film again?" I asked him everything, and I could tell he kind of thought it was funny, because they were being really serious, and I was like, let's talk about
Gordon
good
Cole
stuff, yeah. And at the end, I just said, I said that I had written a feature, and I was making a feature. And the entire thing took place in the bathroom. And I remember he said, "Great." And I was so happy because no one ever reacted that way to the pitch ever. And I just was really inspired, It was like nitrous fuel, and I said to him, Can I send it to you when I finish? And he said, "You bet." I left that and I was like, "I'm gonna make this fucker." And I finished it, and the first thing I did with the cut was send it to him. I emailed his assistant at the time, Indy, and sent it to him. And I really thought that would be the end of the story, really. Because I didn't have really unrealistic expectations about anything. I was really grateful for each thing, But he emailed me, I remember my wife at the time. She thought somebody died. Tears were just down my neck. The top of my shirt was she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, I couldn't even, because it was a very long thing. And at the end, he wrote the beautifully thing. And I was like, "Oh my gosh," and I was like, I don't want to ruin the vibe here, but I really have to write him and ask him if I can tell anybody that he said that. I wrote back right away, and I just said, "Can I tell anybody?" And he said, "Tell everybody." So I started telling everybody.
I had a similar thing where I asked him if he would give me a quote for the blue rose, and he said, "Well, I love that there's the blue rose, and I'm really happy you're doing it." And I said, "Can I use that?" And they said no. That's a true story. That's 100%. They said, "That's just for you to know." And so I love that our stories are exactly opposite. And then you get to be in the return from this. And do you think...
This is definitely from this. No, this is... Yeah, Sabrina told me 100%. Sabrina told me David was thinking of me when you wrote Ray.
But so, I was trying to think about that because I knew that. What do you think that he saw that because I wouldn't
Well,
say...
I have a lot of ideas about that, but I don't know, We never talked about that. Yeah, we didn't talk. I didn't push it hey, what?
Well, I just wondered if
no, I think that there's a
connection between Ray and shoes. That's
yes.
Instead of that, I'm asking that I'll change.
I think that we get to see this person be a lot of different people for a lot of different people. I think that could be it. But I do know my first day on the show, the PA was taking me around. I was like, "You're pretty young to be the key PA, right?" And he said something about my movie, And I could tell that people had known about. I could tell people knew about it on set. And but he said my dad thinks you're funny. It was Riley.
Oh.
And I was like, God damn, man, can I tell people about that?
And you said no to that one at least, right?
No, I was just really pleased because that's not like the customary first impression people have of me, you know. But I remember he laughed at me a lot when we talked, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think David thought it was funny. Like Ray, it's funny.
Yeah, Ray's so funny. You are in part 8, which will go down in history as one of the greatest hours ever aired on television. We're going to be watching it tomorrow night. So the actors fire walk with me. We're going to play part 8, and George is going to introduce it. I don't want you to spoil your intro, but you could have not been in part 8. You know, it just kind of depends where it lands. And you were there. So what is it like to know that no matter what, you're in the greatest hour of modern television?
I bring it up to my children every night. You know, it feels great. Look, I knew that was going to happen the night I saw it. I think we all knew something had changed forever, like in the mythology, I mean, that was on TV.
No, it's weird. I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, and also, well, certainly around, in terms of like inside baseball, you know, it was treated a little bit differently even. I remember Peter Deming posted on Instagram, he had like a chevron something, and he wrote like no other or something like that. It was just like, I could tell it was, I knew that I shoot him, and I didn't know what happened in the rest of the show. I was pretty sure that was only going to happen with me, I thought, you know. And so when also what was different, which you guys remember, is that 7 and 8 sort of, they led into one another, so it was this real fake out, I felt like, because it was like, oh, look how traditional, you know, we end getting out of jail, we start like with Escape Drive, you know. But like that page of what I was going to do, of all my pages, there's just no way that wasn't going to be. I felt very trusted when I read that. You know, I really felt that was like, I knew David was trusting me a lot, you know.
Did you think you killed him?
Did I think I killed him? No, I didn't. No.
Because, I mean, you could, you know, you don't know what's coming next or where things are going to end. I've heard many people say, like, they had no idea where their things were going to land. I don't even know that Dwayne and David knew really where everything was going to land. What is The Return? What do you see when you watch The Return? Can you remove that you're in it? Because this was your whole dream, your whole life, to be part of Twin Peaks, from, you know.
Yeah, when I was in
were
theater
in it.
school, I remember I was finishing conservatory in like 1993, I guess, and there would be these like professional workshops, you know? And this may be difficult for you all to imagine, but I was like kind of a complicated, difficult person to deal with in my 20s. And I would go to these professional things, and they would ask me things like, is that the attitude you're going to go in the room with? And are you going to get a haircut? And do you think shaving is in your future? Like, geez, this is like, what the heck? And then they would say, well, what do you want to be in? I would say, Twin Peaks. And they would say, that just got canceled. And I always said the exact same thing, which was, maybe it'll come back. Which, I mean, it's pretty great because I did, and I also, funny when the I know you guys got to get out of here, but when the tweet, the gum tweet, you remember that?
Right, of course we do.
Yeah.
That gum you like is going to come back in style.
Yeah, I wrote David a letter right away. I remember, and I sent it, and then the next day it was off, and I was like, oh shoot, I just sent a letter that went to the ether, but in that letter, the PS, I said, holy cow, I am so excited for the return of Twin Peaks.
I sent the same letter. 3 days later, return to sender. I love 90s movies. To me, it's the best. This could have been a 90s movie. It feels like a 90s movie. I'm so glad there's not a gun in your movie. I'm so glad no one comes in and shoots everyone up. These are human beings having human stories, and you made a modern classic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a 15-minute break because y'all got to pee, and then we got hotel room. Now, if you want to do me a favor, I don't know if you know this, but today I happen to get published in Vanity Fair. And I'd like them to hire me again. So just click on it. It's the Jennifer Lynch article. You're on your phones while you're peeing. Click on, give me a click. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.